Good evening, my sugar bears. Good evening, good afternoon, and good morning to those of you across the pond and across the land. I am Leo Brown here again with another story time for you. I know you guys love these, and I actually love telling them, so I figured I would do it. All right, so before I begin, let me just say thank you for watching, for commenting, and most of all for subscribing to the channel. Please keep doing that. Please keep liking, subscribing, commenting and becoming a sugar bear. It really means a lot to me. Now, if you would like a reading or a life coaching session, because I am also a psychic medium and life coach, you can go to my website, which is psychicleo.com. Or if you're not quite ready for that yet, you can follow me on various social media platforms. All my information is down in the description box below. So I want to give you guys a story time that I was kind of wrestling with in a sense because I was like, I don't know if I want to talk about this, but I think it's actually pretty poignant and funny. So I figured, why not? After thinking about it. So I hope you guys can see me. Hold on a second. I think I'm gonna cut my light on just to be safe. Hold on, y'all. Hold on for just one sec. There we go. So that way it's even. There we go. That way you guys can see me, and I'm not looking too I'm not lit wrong, because you got to be lit right. Okay, so anyway, so this story time is my first dealings with television, with the nature of television, and in particular, um, yeah, the my I would say my first dealings with the world of TV. So there was a point in time where I really, 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 really wanted to do TV. I really wanted, well, technically, let me go back. I wanted to do entertainment. Like I really did. Like originally I actually wanted to be in radio because and I still do. I love radio. At one point I had a radio show. I've done several radio shows actually because I had a radio show of my own. Then I did a collaborative radio show called Hers and His Radio on Blog Talk. Thank you to Blog Talk Radio for that. And then I had my own show, which was Real Talk with Leo Brown, and I've had a podcast, Life of Luxury, but I really, really, really wanted to do radio. I wanted to be like the radio psychic. That was my goal. I wanted to read for the celebrities and blah, 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 blah. So fast forward to, I think, 2000 and I want to say it was 12, no, 2009, I believe. So I stumbled upon this site called Reality Revealed. And they were like, well, have you ever been betrayed by a loved one? And at the time, my mother and I we were really going through it. We were not in a very good place. We've gotten better. If you follow me, then you know what I'm talking about. But at that time, we were really not in good spaces. And so I submitted my story to this particular production company. And I said, okay, ooh, I get to do. But then, when I submitted it, I was like, okay, I'm gonna submit it and see what happens. Thought nothing of it. They called me back, I think, within 2 days. And at the time, if you guys remember when Ricky Lake came back, not old school Ricky Lake, but like when she was like 40 and her show became more serious. So the producers of that show contacted me, and they were like they were producers for her show as well. And here's what I learned. I didn't know it then, but I learned it really quickly, which was producers, not all, but some producers cannot be trusted. So they really can. Because they will say anything to book you, to get you, because that's their job. Their job is to book the talent. Okay. Their job is to produce. So I'm talking to this woman. I'm not going to say her name, but I'm talking to this woman and I'm telling her my stuff and I'm spilling my guts, which I shouldn't have done, but I did. And everything. And then I talked to another producer because I usually when you do a talk show, you at least meet two production people from staff. So I'm talking to another producer, telling her the same thing. And I said to them, I said, listen, I don't mind doing the show. I'll do TV, but I don't want it to be Jerry Springer-ish. I don't want it to be tabloid. I don't want it to be messy. I want it to be a healing show. I wanted because at the time I really wanted conflict resolution between my mother and I. I wanted something that would be, like that would help us in the long run. So, and they booked. Eventually they were like, and they asked me. They said, "Well, can you send pictures of you and your mother? Can you do this? Can you do that?" So I sent in pictures, everything. They interviewed me again, and I told them that I was a psychic, and I said, "Well, I really would like to do, psychic readings and stuff." And so the woman was like, one of the producers, she was like, well, Ricki Lake actually is doing a show on psychics. She's having John Edward and Shawn Margolis on her show, which was true. But she was like, she's having them on the time that you come on. So if you can come on, if we can book you, we can possibly put you on that show. So I was like, oh my God, I really want to, I really want to do it. And when everything was said and done, I was kind of, I was reluctant really, because I was like, I don't know if I want to do this. I don't know if I want to go, like, I want to do TV, but I don't know if I want to do TV in this capacity, in this kind of, uh, role or whatever, or not role, but in this way. I was like, I don't know if I want to do TV like this, because this is, something that's deeply personal. And so I kept saying to the producers, I said, listen, as long as it's not trashy, as long as as long as it's not something that I can look back on, that I look back on and be like, why did I do that? You know what I mean? Like, because I'm the kind of person that if I choose to do a project, whether it be, television, radio, pop, whatever it is, I'm the kind of person where I want to, because I look back. I do. So I'm one of those people where it's like, well, am I going to be proud of this 5, 10, 15 years from now? So they then tell me about the show. And the name of the show at the time was called Moral Code. And it was supposed to be a show with Judge Lynn Toller of Divorce Court. If you guys know, and I'm pretty sure you know who that is. So it was supposed to be a show with her. And they said, well, yeah, you'll get to meet Judge Lynn Toller, blah, blah, blah. So I'm like, oh my God. And I'm thinking, oh my God, I'm going to meet, Judge Lynn Toller. I'm going to, be able to contact people and connect and rub elbows. And my mother and I will get to a good place. It'll be great. So despite my reluctance, part of me was like, this would be awesome. Because I was also, I also had stars in my eyes. And I talked to my friends, I talked to people that I knew, and I was like, should I do this? Should I not do it? I don't know. Because I was really on the fence. So fast forward, my mom, I talked to my mother about it, and I said, well, Mom, would you mind coming to Los Angeles to do television with me? And she was like, I'll do it for you. I'll do it for my son. Because at the time we were very much estranged. And I was like, okay, great. So she comes. We get to LA. Okay. So they fly us out. They flew us out separately. Because she was in Alabama and I was in Illinois at the time. So they fly us out separately. I get there first. I get to the hotel. I'm all happy. Beautiful. Culver City, by the way, is gorgeous. So I go to Culver City and I'm like, oh, this is so pretty. And I have stars in my eyes. I'm like, oh my God, And I'm like, yes, I'm here for the talk show, thinking I'm like, big pimping or whatever. So get there. Then my mother comes. My mother comes later on. Now most hotels they'll be like, hey, can you give us $50 for incidentals? So I was like, sure. Gave him the money, got in my room, fine. My mother comes. My mother comes. My mother makes a whole to do about the $50 incidental. well, I'm here for the talk show, and I don't agree with this, and da 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 da. And the reason why I know this is because they call me, and they're like, "Sir, can you come down and deal with your mom?" And I'm like, "All right." So I go down, I deal with her. Now, this is what I learned from this too. With certain people, you cannot engage because is make all that does is add more fuel to the fire. And I just chose in that moment not to engage. I was like, I'm not gonna engage with her. I'm not gonna let her rile me up. I'm not gonna do any of that. She was like, well, call the show people. Now, mind you, it's late. Like I think it's like 10, 11 o'clock. And she was like, call the show people, da 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 da. And I'm like, and so I said, no, I'm not gonna do this. So eventually it got resolved. She was able to pay them in cash. She paid them the money. Fine, she got in her room. So the next morning, they tell us, because they told us, they said in our emails before we left, they said, I gotta go back a little bit. They said the next, they had the limos come pick us up. So we're riding in our limousine and stuff to the hotel. And they said the next morning is the morning of the talk show. So, when you get there, be camera ready, be ready to go on camera. So I get up, I get dressed, I do my makeup, everything. My mother and I, and this actually, and for me, this kind of clued in how different we were and are, and how alike we were and are. I mean, I am a mother, or excuse me, I am a mother's child because I'm definitely not my mama. But anyway, um, but anywho, so we get up, we get dressed, we get, we're ready for the guy to come pick us up, the limousine. So we ride in the limo. We get there, we get to the studio. The minute we get into the studio, oh, Mr. and Miss Brown, oh, you guys, you definitely did come camera ready. I forgot the guy who told us this, but he was like, you definitely did come camera ready. He was like, but we got to change your, referring to me, he was like, we got to change your shoes and we got to change your shirt. And at the time, and I was trying to put on false lashes, and I still can't do it to this day. I am not, and I love falsies, but I can't put them on for anything. So anyway, I can't apply them. I really can't. So anywho, so he's like, okay, we got to get rid of it because I had lash glue on my lashes. So he was like, let's get the lash glue off. So they took the lash glue off. They were like, your makeup is fine. Your makeup is actually good. So they then said we got to change your shirt because I think the shirt I had on was too dark, and they were like, it won't read well on camera. So we're gonna change your shirt. So they changed my shirt. I think I wore like this oversized green shirt, if I remember correct. And then they changed my shoes. The shoes were way too big, and they were these brown dress shoes, like the kind of like like church shoes, like those kind of shoes. So they put me in those, and we see the other segments go on. Now we get there, we're there, and we're watching the talk show happen. We're watching the audience get warmed up, and the guy's like, "Hi, my name is da 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 da, and welcome to Moral Code." And mind you, Moral Code was a pilot. It was a pilot that never aired. Thank God, it never aired. Um, so we're watching the other stories take place. And I'm getting upset because I'm like, wait a minute. I don't want this to be a Jerry Springer type of thing. And that's exactly what it was. And I'm like, and people are cussing and fussing, and you son of a bitch, you motherfucker, you this, you that. Oh my God. And people are crying. One woman, she ran backstage, she was crying. And I was like, this is so exploitive. Because here's the thing. I know that reality TV or talk shows, or whatever we're gonna call it, I know that it's visibility for a lot of people. I mean, if it wasn't, you wouldn't have Real Housewives, you wouldn't have Potomac, you wouldn't. Well, yeah, Housewives of Potomac, the same thing. You wouldn't have the Housewives, you wouldn't have the Shaws of Sunset, you wouldn't have Baddies. Like you wouldn't have any of these shows because it is visibility. Let's be honest. if you have something to promote, even if it's just yourself, reality TV, a talk show, whether it was Sally Jesse, whether it was Jerry, whether it was Maury, whether it was Oprah, it served you well, depending on what you did with it. So I understand that. But what I don't like is I don't like exploitation. I don't. And I told them, like, under no uncertain terms, I was like, listen, I don't mind doing TV, but I do not want to be exploited. I don't want it to be this Jerry Springer, Ricky Lake, Maury Povich bullshit. I just don't. And so they were like, oh, it's not going to be that, this is production. They're like, oh, we assure you, Mr. Brown, it will not be like that. It won't be anything of the kind, blah, 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 blah. Baby, we get there, those people are cussing, fussing, fighting, acting a whole fool. And I'm like, oh my God. And now, of course, I can't get out of it because I'm here now. It's like, well, shit, I can't get out of it. So it comes time for our segment for my mother and I. So we get set up. They have the cameras. I meet the talk show host. Now the talk show hosts were actors. There was no Judge Lynn Toler was not even there. I never met Miss Ricky Lake. Never met her. The whole thing about the psychic show that was supposed to be before, that was a lie. That never happened. Even though Ricky Lake did have a show with Shawn Margolis and John Edward on it, but this was, I think, 2 days before I even came in. So that whole thing. So the whole thing that the production told me was basically they lied. They lied to my face to get me on the show. So my mother and I were doing the show, and I'm telling them what happened. I'm talking to the talk show host. Now, mind you, this is what I did like. I remember seeing the talk show host because they had to do it. They had to do more than one take. So the talk show host, it was a man and a woman, and I never forget it because the woman wore like this chunky jewelry. This is when chunky jewelry was really in fashion, and she had really big curls. And then the guy that she was with, I think they were both actors, and they held each other's hands, and they walked down, and then they walked down the entrance to where we would be sitting, and they were like, okay, and welcome so, and everybody's clapping and stuff, and I remember just feeling this rush of energy, and I was like, oh my God. And to be honest, I've always wanted to do a talk show. Always, because I love communication. I love talking. I love hearing the way people, getting into the way people think. I really do. I think that's why I do what I do, honestly. But anyway, so we're sitting there and I'm telling them my story. No, because my mother's backstage. I forgot about that. Let me take it back. So I'm telling them my part of the story. And I'm like, I just really want, and I'm being sincere. I'm like, I really want my mom and I to have a better relationship, blah, 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 blah. And then they cut. One of the producers are like, cut, they cut the thing. And the production comes up and it's an older lady. She comes up to me and she says, you were really expressive on the phone to us and when you did the interview. And I forgot about that too. When we got to the studio, before we got before we were going backstage to be on the talk show, they interviewed us again. And so the production, and I can see the woman in my head because I met them both. One woman, she was an older woman. She had her hair in a bun, like not a ponytail, but like a bun. And she had, then the other woman, she had her hair like in bouncy curls. She was a beautiful chocolate sister. She was so pretty. And she told me, she said, one of the reasons why I actually wanted to do this show with you is because I'm sort of going through this within my own family. So it was very personal to her. And she was like, you articulate yourself and you express yourself like so well, like very well. And I'll never forget that. She was like, you express yourself very well. And I was like, well, thank you. So fast forward. So we're doing the show, and or at least I'm on stage and I'm talking, I'm telling them what's going on. And I'm, saying my thing, and then they go cut, and they cut, and the production woman comes up to me, one of the producers, and she's like, "You were really expressive. You were really, giving it. So give it, like give it your all, And they wanted me to be angry. They wanted me to be, oh, I'm mad. It's that, and I'm like, I'm not doing that. So I was like, mm-mm. And then so they got pictures of me, pictures of my mother, and they put them side by side. They had a picture of me when I was in drag and a picture of my mom. And they were like, "Do you think your mother's jealous of you?" And I was like, "Well, yes, maybe, she may be. And so then my mother comes out. My mother comes out, baby. My mother comes out, and here, and I kid you not, this is what happened. And I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, no, I don't want, no, no, no. And so, and I'm not saying no to the audience, but in my head, I'm like, oh my God, don't. And so my mother comes, my mother says her piece, and we're getting into it now because I'm like, well, I can't help it that I haven't, I can have family of choosing, blah, blah, blah. And the audience is agreeing with me. And then towards the end that I remember, they had a guy come out that was a reverend. He was a minister, and he basically talked to my mother. He was like, "Listen, that's your son. You should love him. Like if you claim to love God, like you claim, like that's your son." And they were like, and he said to me, "Brother, you gotta if she refuses to see you, you have to let her go and live your own life." And so towards the end, right, and everybody's like, "That's right," the audience, "That's right, bro, love yourself." And everybody's, they clap and everything, and then the show ends. And at this time, I'm actually in tears because the audience, they're leaving. I'm in tears because I'm like, this is really hard for me. This is really opening up. And even as I talk about it, I'm kind of getting teary. This is opening up a lot of wounds for me. And I'm like, I'm like, this is not what I wanted. I didn't want it like this. I didn't want it to be exploitive. And as the audience was leaving, and I will never forget this woman. I met a woman who was the show therapist. You know how like back in the days of Ricky Lake or Maury or Jerry, well, no, not Jerry, but Sally, they would have an on-show therapist. And so the on-show therapist came to me and I'm crying. I'm literally like boo-hooing. And I'm like, I'm in tears and I'm trying not to break down because I'm like, this is so hurtful. I got to go back home with this woman. You know what I'm saying? I gotta ride to the hotel with her. You know what I'm saying? And I don't know about this. So so the woman, the therapist comes to me and she's like, listen to me. You are not the problem. Your mother is the problem. Your mother is you're not being selfish for wanting to live your life as you choose and being who you are. You're not being selfish at all. And she gave me her card and she said, if you ever need me, if you ever want to talk, call me. And I just was like, thank you, because I felt genuinely bad. I was like, oh my God, I just ruined what relationship, my mother ever and I ever had. And I'll be honest with y'all, I am a mama's boy. I am. Not gonna lie. I am a mama's boy, but I am also the kind of person that knows mother doesn't always know best, you know? So get back to the hotel. I they get me out of the shirt and the shoes. They then give me my clothes back and I put everything back on. They gave us, I think, $500 and drove us back to the hotel, and that was it. And then I talked with my mom. I'm in the hotel, I get back to my mother. And my mother and I, we really talked. And I said, Mom, I really I love you, but I just really wish you would see me for me and understand that I'm not doing this to spite you. I'm not doing this because I'm under someone's control or, what have you. And she was like, you know what? I respect that. And I understand. And we hugged, and that was it. And I didn't see my mother again until I think 2012 or 13. And that's another story. Uh, but my main point of this story is I learned a lot about television. Television, and I shouldn't say television, but entertainment. Entertainment is a lot of smoke, it's a lot of mirrors. It's you are a name and a number, you're a commodity. You know what I mean? People wonder why the writers are striking, and why we had a writer strike 15 years ago. That's why, because you're not treated as a person in entertainment. It's more about, well, what can you do? How can you, you know what I mean? What doors can you open for me? What's in it for me? It's business. And I didn't realize that at the time. I thought that everybody in entertainment was my friend, me and the producers, because we would talk every day and I would open up to them. And they would use that. It was a lot of manipulation. They would use that uh, against me, and I didn't realize it then. But that's why oftentimes when you hear a lot of uh, people say, oh, production is production that, that's true. That's some real stuff because I can tell you from my own experience that production will play with you. And I said, even then, I said, if I ever do TV, I want to make sure that I'm with the right people and that it's not exploitive. But that's another story because I have another story about television for another day. But I wanted to share my first run-ins with TV with you guys and how it really influenced, my um, view on the entertainment business. And I just wanted to share that story time with you. I wanted to share something a little bit more serious. So I hope you guys have enjoyed this story time. I've enjoyed telling it. And, let me know in the comments below what you think. What do you think about, production and talk shows and all that stuff? What are your thoughts? I want to hear what you have to say. So until next time, my sugar bears, I say to you, uh, be learnable, be teachable, love yourself, and most of all, be you. Have a wonderful, wonderful day, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.